Hello guys, I am so sorry for the late video, but welcome back to the Homeless Vigilante Chapter 5. Hope you enjoy. The morning sun filtered in softly through the blinds of the UA infirmary, casting long, pale lines across the sterile white sheets. Nightfall's eyes snapped open. The immediate rush of adrenaline that usually kept him alive on the streets flared in his chest. His heart hammered against his ribs. He instinctively tried to throw off the blanket and roll off the bed into a defensive crouch, but his body flatly refused to cooperate. He didn't fall. He barely even shifted. A sharp, blinding neural migraine immediately slammed into the back of his skull, forcing a choked gasp from his throat. The sheer effort of trying to move sent a wave of agonizing heat through his frayed muscles. He lay flat on his back, panting heavily, staring blankly at the unfamiliar white ceiling. Then the true panic set in. He couldn't feel his hands. Nightfall looked down at his arms. They were resting on top of the crisp white blanket wrapped securely from wrist to shoulder in thick sterile gauze coated in a cooling medical gel. He stared intently at his fingers, commanding them to curl in a fist. Nothing happened. The temporal neural burnout from his overexertion had completely deadened the nerve endings in his upper and lower extremities. To his brain, his hands simply did not exist. The skin on his fingers looked pale and ghostly, still showing the faint blue-black discoloration of the reversible ischemia. He tried to wiggle his toes, but his feet felt like heavy, unresponsive blocks of ice. "Don't force it," a tired voice came from the corner of the room. "You'll only trigger another seizure." Nightfall flinched, his head snapping towards the sound. Shota Aizawa sat in a simple plastic chair beside the bed. Wrapped in his usual black attire, a lukewarm cup of coffee held loosely in his hands. His eyes were bloodshot, dark eyes hanging under them, proving he hadn't slept a wink all night. "What did you do to me?" Nightfall croaked, his voice barely a whisper. His vocal cords were still clumsy and uncooperative from the neurological overload. "My hands, I can't feel them. Did you cut them off?" "No," Nightfall said calmly, setting his coffee down on the bedside table. He didn't move aggressively or get too close, respecting the feral, cornered look in the boy's eyes. "Your limbs are intact. You're suffering from temporal neural burnout. You pushed your umbral tether past its absolute limit to escape me 2 weeks ago. Your nerve endings are deadened. They need days to repair." Nightfall's breath hitched. He tried to summon his shadow, his eyes darting to the floor to find the familiar darkness at his heels. "If I can just make a tether, I can pull myself out of here," he thought frantically. "I wouldn't try that either," Aizawa warned, his tone steady but firm. "The doctor has you on a specific neural blocker. If you force your quirk out right now, the intracranial pressure will spike again. You'll bleed out from your nose and ears before you can even cross the room." Tears of absolute frustration and terror welled in Nightfall's bloodshot eyes. On the streets of Musutafu, being paralyzed meant death. Being helpless meant being caught, beaten, or worse. He was entirely at the mercy of an underground hero he barely knew. "Why am I here?" Nightfall whispered, his jaw trembling as a tear rolled down into his tattered hoodie, which had been neatly folded and placed at the foot of his bed. "Just hand me over to the police. Put me in a cell." "The police don't know you're even here," Aizawa replied, leaning forward and resting his elbows on his knees. "And you're not going into a cell. You're a kid who's been torturing himself just to survive. We're gonna fix your body, and then we're gonna teach you how to use your quirk without tearing your own flesh apart." Nightfall stared at him, looking for any sign of a lie. His numb, useless fingers twitched slightly, a microscopic spark of life returning to a single nerve ending, bringing with it a dull throb of phantom pain. He closed his eyes, completely defeated by his own broken body.